Hi, I'm Leslie, Stampin' Up demonstrator and admin and owner of the Facebook group Paper Ink Love, and this is my first ever card making tutorial, so bear with me because I'm probably just as nervous as you are. We're gonna make this beautiful shadow box card I made the other day, and I was so excited. And I did this using the Pansy Petals Stampin' Up suite, and it looks already elegant and lovely on the front of the card, but when you open it, you have a dimensional pansy patch. And the Pansy Petals suite makes it impossible to make an ugly pansy. This collection is great for anybody, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I did a lot of pre-cutting and pre-stamping to try to save us some time on this today. Okay, so we're gonna need, for our card base, we have a 5.5 by 8 inch piece of white cardstock scored at 4 1/4 inches. Your smaller side of the card, so this side is going to be the inside of your card, so it's going to be what you open up to see. We also have another piece of paper. It's also white. It's going to be cut to 5.5 by 5 1/4, and it's going to be scored at 1/2 inch, 4 1/4 inch, and 4 3/4 inches. This is going to make our pop-up window thing, our shadow box. We're also going to be using 2 pieces of paper from the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper from Stampin' Up. We're going to want the one that has the pansies pictured on it. Aren't those lovely? And the piece with the leaves on it. We are also using the pansy patch stamps and the coordinating die set, which creates the pansy patch bundle. So, in addition, we're going to need soft succulent cardstock cut in sizes 5.5 by 4 1/4, and also 3.5 by 5 1/4. No, 3.5 by 4. I had that off. Forgive me. We need white cardstock cut in 5 1/4 by 4, 3.5 by 5 1/4, and also a small little piece in 2.5 by 1 3/4. Your 2 larger pieces of white cardstock, not the ones that are scored and folded, but the other 2, I did run through the Stampin' Up brick and mortar 3D embossing folder. It gives it a lovely textured impression. We're also going to want a piece of pale papaya in the size 3 1/4 by 5. So we're going to set those aside for a minute and pick up our white piece of cardstock that has the 3 score lines. So I've already scored it, but there is a little bit of trimming that needs done, and I waited for you guys so I could show you how to do that. So to create our window, I wanted to have a 1/4 inch border because later we're going to add a little extra pretties. We're going to add this lacy. So I wanted something to attach that to. So I left a 1/4 inch frame on my window. So to do that, I took 1 score mark. It doesn't matter. I mean, one of the inside ones, obviously ignore this one. Line this one or this one up at the 1/4 inch mark, and then bring your blade up to the 1/4 inch mark, and that's where you want to put it in the paper at. And then I go up to, best I can gauge, a 1/4 inch from the top. Then we're gonna flip our paper over, line one side up at the 1/4 inch mark, start our blade at a 1/4 inch from there, and go up to the first mark that we made. We are going to do this on all of the sides of the paper. Ooh, went a little too far on that one. Luckily, we get to cover it up. You can save that if you want for something else. It's a nice little decent sized piece of cardstock. So we have our window trimmed now. So now we're going to take and fold on our folds. So on the side where you only have the one score line, you get to fold this in. I'll use my bone folder. And then on this one, you want both of your score lines folded in as well. So I'll do this first one. I try to open it up so I make sure that I don't fold it into the other one or overlap if I might have measured wrong or something. And now we have that. So it's important to attach this to the card now before we design inside of our shadow box because of the fact that it's going to be designed with so much dimension, and we want to make sure we don't have pop dots or foam tape or anything like that in our way of gluing this. So for this one, you want your glue, we had the 2 score marks, and you want your glue on this most outside piece. Jeannie, can you grab me my tape runner and my dimensional dots, please? Okay. So we want to make sure our card is still going to fold flat because there's no sense of making a card if you can't put it in the mail. So fold your scores so that these lay flat now. And this piece should line up with the score on your card base. So you're going to line this with glue. Get that lined up as best you can with your card base and close your card. Now, if I'd placed it perfectly, I wouldn't have this overhang. I think we're going to cover that up though, so I wouldn't be too horribly worried about it. It's handmade. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then when you open it, make sure my glue is dried accurately. When you open it, you have a dimensional box. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry a little more before we play with the fun part, and for now we're going to assemble the front of our card. So this card was done in the colors Evening Evergreen and Polished Pink, which are 2 of our new in colors, but I'm switching the colors on this one because it would have been boring to make the same card twice. So we're on this one going with the Soft Succulent and the Pale Papaya. So we're going to take our largest piece of the Soft Succulent paper, which should be 5.5 by 4.5, and we're just going to adhere that to the front of our card. And I was right, it did cover up my overhang, which is reassuring. Okay, then we're going to take our larger piece of white that we have embossed with the brick and mortar embossing folder, and we're going to adhere that centered onto the soft succulent. Hold it down and make sure we got it on there good. Okay, next we want some pansies. So I wanted my card to have a lot of texture and a lot of dimension. So on top of cutting pansies in both sizes out of the Pansy DSP, I also went ahead and stamped some pansies. And stamping's fun. You can't not stamp on a card. So I've already stamped and cut a bunch, but to show you guys what I did here, I don't know how well you can see that. I used the base of the stamp set. I used this one first, and we went with it in the pale papaya, okay? But you have all kinds of layering and sizes and pretty pieces to build your pansy and really add lots of color. So we started with the pale papaya for our base, and then I moved on to the Calypso coral, and we did the Calypso coral with this piece over top of the base piece. So we're going to go ahead and stamp that. And they're the lovely clear photopolymer stamps, so you can see where you're going, which is always a benefit. So then the next color we're going to be using is the pale papaya again. And we are using this stamp next, and we're going to layer it here on the inside of our pansy. Next, I went with the color Pumpkin Pie, and we're going for the next centerpiece. And then we're going for the last small little centerpiece of the pansy. And we're going back to our Calypso coral. It doesn't matter what colors you use. Like I said, this set was so beautiful and perfectly done that you really can't make an ugly pansy with it. So then we want the teeny tiny little centerpiece, and I did that in the color Bumblebee. Just right in that white uninked part of your pansy. You should end up with something like this. You have a die in the coordinating die set, if you have the die set, that will cut this pansy out perfectly for you, as well as the larger pansy from the DSP. If you do not have a Sizzix machine or the die cuts, it is not the end of the world. Fussy cutting is cool. I love fussy cutting, actually. And you can always just hand cut them out. Might take you a little more time, but doable. So with that, we are going to take, I used the dies and assembled some leaves in the colors Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen. Some I did light on dark, some dark on light, and some color on color. I've also cut some leaves out of the leaf paper, and I hand cut those out and trimmed them in all of the different colors and sizes. And then we've also taken from the DSP with the pansies, we've cut out some of the large ones and also some of the small ones. I also like to take advantage of the ones that are kind of cut off. We can use those in this card, so don't waste that paper. So for the front of the card, I like to do one stamped one and one not stamped one. So we're going to take the one from the DSP and we're going to kind of put that flat. No dimensional dots, nothing fancy and special. And when I glue my pansies, I like to put the glue just in the center of the back so we can still get under it to tuck some leaves underneath. And I'm actually going to reposition that just a little bit. This one, we do want to have a little bit of pop too. Do I not have any other foam dots in there? Let's grab them like all out. And I had this one kind of overlapping this other one. And then we're gonna go in and add some of our leaves. I did also stamp some leaves and cut them with the die cut, and again the Soft Succulent and the Evening Evergreen. Kinda isn't. Let me see how you can like best see the card. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be holding it like that. So we're just going to add these leaves in there. They don't have to be in any particular way. Okay, now with the Pansy Petals Suite Collection, you also get these cute little bumblebee trinkets. Unfortunately, I don't have any more. This is the only one I had, and I used it on that card. So for this one, just for the sake of the demonstration, we're going to go with the ladybug trinkets that are available in the mini catalog till the end of this month, and then they go away, and I am so sad. I love those little ladybugs. I think I want to put him on a little pop dot too, maybe if we can, to lift him up like he's crawling off the card. Right, then I used the sentiment "A Little Hello from Me to You," and I ran my mini messages die through and did it on these little, on blank paper so I could stamp on my labels. So that's where this shape comes from, is the Many Messages die. For my sentiments, I just kind of use the strip edges of the dimensionals. They're a little longer, and I feel like it gives that sentiment just a little more support. And I just kind of off-centered it in the card. You can put it wherever works for you. Your card does not have to look exactly like my card. I'm debating throwing another leaf in here because I got some orange there that I didn't intend to. My pale papaya. I'm just trying to pick which leaf I like best to cover that up. No one's got to know about it. Okay, so now the front of our card is finished, and we get to do the really, really fun part. So when you open up your card, you have this dimensional little box area that we created. So to give that a little something magical, I took one of the Ornate Borders dies and I trimmed some edges up in the color Soft Succulent. So we're just going to take these, and really in no particular fashion, I'm just kind of trimming them out of the paper. Then I opened my card, and how I did the other one is so I made sure they were all kind of lined up the same, is I placed it on there in a way that I wanted these scallops to be hanging off the white so that it wasn't too much hanging off, but I wanted the dots to still be on the white. So we're gonna take our glue, and for the sake of not having glue poking out, we want to get our glue as close to the far edge of the frame as we can. And you just need a really thin line here, folks. You don't want this to pop through those pretty borders that we've made. If you don't have the Ornate Borders dies, any other border die, lace die would work. You could also, opposed to doing this piece in white, do it in another color. You could cut colorful strips. There are options. So if you cannot do it exactly like my card, it does not mean it is the end of the world. And then I just kind of line this up so that I played with it until my big dots were not hanging over, and then I felt happy with it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I doubt anybody's going to go over your card with a ruler and measure to see if everything was precise. Then I'm gonna take this and try trimming it here. All the edges hang off and will be much easier to trim than this one. This one I almost have to kind of bend up off the card to a degree to trim it in the way that I would like. Suppose maybe if you put these on prior to attaching that white piece, that wouldn't affect it too much, and you might have a little better luck. And if you had to peel that off and you need to add a little more glue, it's okay. Just close that up again, hold it tight for a minute. I peel Papaya ink on me. That's probably where I got the orange on the white from. Okay. Come through and do the rest of these in the same fashion that we did the other one, except that these ones will be much easier to trim. And kind of put your fingers under it and hold your edge onto it from the underneath to secure it as it's getting nice and tacky and dry. Then come through and do your top and your bottom edges. And on all of these, I'm just, like I said, kind of lining up so that the cute little polka spots are not hanging over the paper, but the beautiful little scallops are. We're on to our last one. And then we're going to come through and trim off all of this excess. I feel like that's easiest to do if you close the cards, because you just trim everything that's hanging off of the white. And now we should have something like this. So now we want to make our little three-dimensional pansy patch. So to do this, initially to start, I just kind of randomly placed dots of glue on the inside of the card and placed some leaves down to give a little bit of a background. So there wasn't quite as much white just kind of screaming at you. We will be adding more leaves, and obviously the pansies are larger and will cover up some, so you don't have to 100% cover this up. I just, like that. Threw a few in there. So then next what I did is I picked a couple of the pansies that were cut off, and I used those up against the edges of the card where the actual pansies had been cut off. So we'll have, for my card, one that's going to go up along the top somewhere, one that's going to go along the right side, and one that's going to be peekabooing from the bottom. And I just lined those right up with the edges of the card. And these ones I did flat. Again, we're trying to create a dimensional patch of pansies, so some of them are going to be flat, some of them are going to be popped up, some are going to be double popped up, and some are going to be triple popped up. Okay, now after that, I want to take some of my stamped ones and get a little bit of something different in there. And so the way that I did this, I don't know if it's how everyone else would have done it, is I did my flat ones first, and then I did my ones that were popped up the most. And I did that so that afterwards I could kind of fill in and tuck under, and I didn't have places where I couldn't put a pop dot because it was, something was in the way. And so to me, this was the easiest way to go about it. And so I like the stamped ones because I feel like they're so pretty to be really popping up and eye-catching. And so that's why I want those first. We're doing this, we're keeping kind of how we kept our glue centered on the ones on the front. We want to keep our pop dots centered as much as we can, because if they're on the sides, it's going to make it very difficult to tuck things under it without bumping into foam, obviously. These ones I am going, I just did a pop dot, I took the stickum off, I put another pop dot, I'm taking the stickum off, and we're gonna add a third one in there. We're only doing 2 like this. I then also wanted to have leaves on it, and I wanted these leaves to be able to be dimensional too. And so I take a leaf and I also put a pop dot on that. And it doesn't have to be all the way on it if you want it somewhat hanging off because you want to see more of your leaf, however you want to do that. And then I kind of position this how I imagine it would look on the pansy. And this way you have your pansy and your leaves, you know, are still, they're not quite touching it. You still have dimension even with those. So we're now going to take this and attach this somewhere in our card. And then we're going to do the same thing to a second one. I need to figure out how to do a video and it not look mirrored the way it does. I want you guys to be able to look down at what I'm doing. To Try to remember to keep picking the card up and showing you what we're looking at. And then we're going to take this pansy and attach it. So on those little guys, we did 3 layers of pop dots. So on these next couple, we're just going to do 2. Call them pop dots. I think they're dimensional dots. Stampin' Dimensions. Stampin' Dimensionals. Make it pop, like they make it pop up. These ones, you can attach the leaves to in the same fashion that I did on the other ones. It's almost not necessary. Those are only going to go on one pop dot, so they could be attached directly to the page. For them to be lifted one pop dot off of this would be the same thing as them being lifted one pop dot off of the inside of the card. So, we're just kind of putting these in here, not in any particular order or fashion. They're just kind of random. Again, I wanted it to genuinely, I wanted you to open it and feel like you were in an actual patch of pansies, which got them on top of each other and growing at different rates and different sizes, and some have been walked on. Okay, I'm going to take another, we're to the end of my pack of dimensionals, but the great thing about these is you can kind of snip here and also use the edges. Why waste anything? These were leftovers from one of my paper pumpkin boxes. Two layers. I'm going to take this small one and just put it on one little pop dot. Then we can take some more of our leaves. You can attach them directly to the card. You can just lift a pansy up and attach it kind of underneath a pansy. I have some of my leaves kind of overlapping other flowers because I feel that would happen genuinely in nature. Some of them you don't have to do pop dots on. You can just wedge them in there, and you know, you want all different dimensions and angles and pop out fun. I really love these ones that I did with the die cut. I think that they are just so beautiful. So I think I'm really making sure I get my use out of those. Then for added fun, so one of them really popped. I put it on the inside bottom corner here. Look at that. All of that dimension. So we're just put a little glue on the corner bits of our lace. Attach a pansy. And we're going to go ahead and pick a couple more leaves. To attach to that one. Wait for that glue to get a little tacky. Might have done a little too much, kind of splooged it out. So our little pansy garden should look something like this. And now we're going to do the inside panel of the card. So obviously, because I love how the sun's hitting that, it's growing my garden. Obviously, because we've done a shadow box, we have nowhere for a sentiment, nowhere to sign. What are we going to do? So that's what the additional pieces of cardstock are for. So we are going to take our other piece of soft succulent that we had left, and we are going to add some glue to that. And then center it on the inside panel of this card. Okay, we are then going to take our piece of pale papaya to kind of accent those pansies in the orange that we did, not pale papayas. But I was just saying we need more oranges. The other, it was probably about a little while ago, and then, you know, they came out with the new in colors, and we got the pale papaya, and they're just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. And then we're going to take our other piece of our embossed white and center that onto that pale papaya. Kind of it's upside down now, so this is actually the top of the card. Not quite sure how that happened or why, but we'll go with it. Okay, so now we have this as our inside panel. So we're going to take that last teeny tiny little piece of white that I told you at the beginning you were going to need, and we're going to stamp a sentiment on that. I can figure out where I put my Memento black ink pad, maybe. Oh, literally right in front of me. And our little foam mat. We have our piece of that's got glue on that side. Okay. I am going to go with the wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you sentiment. Because I feel like this card would be perfect for anything, and I want it to be available no matter what occasion, if any specific occasion I choose to use it for. And I feel like that's kind of an all occasion stamp. That can be a birthday or a well wishes or just thinking about you, and so I feel like it's a really versatile stamp. I'm going to get that onto our Stampin' block, our Memento black ink. Try to line this up as centered as we can. It's probably not going to be perfect, but it's handmade. We're not Hallmark, we're better. Okay. And then, continuing with our dimension, we're going to add some more dimensionals to this piece, so that it's popping off of our textured brick and mortar background. We're going to center it side to side, but I put mine a little higher up than the middle. That onto that panel of our card, and then I mean, it's perfect as is. You could honestly leave it just like that. But if you want to give it something a little extra special, I have the here we are. The Artistry Blooms adhesive backed sequin. The in color jewels would have also been beautiful with this, but I do not happen to have them. So we went with the Artistry ones, and we have those in yellow, which is what I used on the pink card. We also have them in orange, and so if you wanted to, you could take on all of your pansies, on just your large ones, on the front, on the inside, however you want to do it. You could take these little sequins and just kind of put them into the middles of your pansies, just to give them that bit of extra sparkle. I like doing it on my big ones and leaving the small ones kind of be. They're still growing. They're not quite old enough for sequins yet. Okay. Don't forget that forwardmost front pansy that we went with. And then if you wanted, you could even put one on them on the front. And now, I mean, it doesn't quite fold flat anymore due to all of the dimension, but you could definitely still get it in an envelope. So that is my dimensional shadow box Pansy Petals Suite Collection card. Thank you guys for hanging out and watching my first card tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, you can find me on my Facebook group, Paper Ink Love. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time.